When you're learning to code, there's such an overwhelming amount of information that you need to know. You need to know about different technologies in the front end, about React, JavaScript, and there's back-end stuff, about APIs, database, there's data structures and algorithms, AI stuff, design stuff, and DevOps, this list is just gonna keep growing and it's never gonna end. So how do you manage it all? And that's what I'm gonna talk about in this video, of how do you manage all these different technologies that you have to know. My name's David and I'm a freelance web developer, currently filming this video from Seoul, South Korea, as I'm doing some traveling throughout Asia. Today I was working on slides on a new course I'm working on for the foundations of programming that I plan on launching soon, and taking a break now to walk around, and I thought I'll make this video in the meantime. Because when I first started learning to this, I felt overwhelmed about the information that I need to know, and it didn't stop as well. It continues to be overwhelming, and I'll just be wondering, like, how do these people know it all? It's just so much, and it keeps getting bigger, the list you need to know. And it's like you have to know, like, the legacy stuff, the old code, as well as the new code too, because the new stuff builds upon the old stuff. So it can be tough. And then I remember, like, when I'll be applying for interviews, I'll be focusing on data structures and algorithms, but then I forget about the other parts in full stack development, and I'll forget about, like, the different states in React, and it was tough managing all. When you work as well, like, I remember when my team shifted from just being a front end to a full stack, the leadership understood that this is a tough transition and that we would need time to be more comfortable with the back end and just the full stack in general. So this sense of overwhelm doesn't go away once you become a developer. It's part of being a developer, is handling this overwhelming, never-ending amount of information. So there's really no magic way to handle it. You just have to accept that when you work with different technologies, you're gonna forget some of it as you go on. You're gonna have to do work tickets in the front end, and then you forget some things about the back end, and then you work on the back end, and then you forget things about the front end. But here's the key, is that this cycle of jumping back and forth between different technologies, different part of the stack, the more times you switch, the faster you can get caught up to where you were previously. So yeah, you're gonna forget some, but then next time you go to it, you will have a faster time of getting back to speed on par of what you know. So you have to do this cycle a lot of times throughout your career as a developer. That's why, one of the reasons why it's so important to have experience in this field, because they know that you go through this cycle multiple times, so you can grasp new technologies faster, and you can be efficient with applying to new technologies that you learn. And then I also wanted to talk about, like, the ordering things of when you're doing full stack development. For me, I like to focus on the database first. The database gives you the foundation of what you're working on. So you know what data you'll be working on, because the APIs, the front end, all depends on this database schema. And how well you organize your database, taking into account the needs of the app, the needs of the business, determines how efficient your app is. So I like to prioritize doing the database first whenever building out a new app. Next, to add on to the database is you go on to the API level. So deciding how you're going to be communicating with this database at the API and thinking about the different permissions and the different users who will need access to this data to use certain APIs. I like to do that next because it builds upon the database. It's just the next logical step. And then last would be the front end to how to interact with the API to get the database. I like to do that last because front end can be vast a lot of times. There's so many. I think it's just much more code needed to do in the front end compared to for the kind of projects I'm doing. There's much more code and it could be vast. There can be, especially with the design stuff, so much to it. So by having your API set and then your database set, it kind of narrows your scope of what you need for your front end. So I like to design my database first and then design my APIs and then work on the front end. And then when I actually code it out, I'll do cycles of this. I'll work on certain user story features of certain functionalities and do that database, APIs, and front end in that order to add that functionality in the app. So then I'll work on, so each time I'll forget a little bit about how databases work, back end, like what did I do before. But this is why it's important that when you're working on these technologies, you create documentation. At least when you're learning, you code something out, you have reference on GitHub. You don't want to just code something out and not use it anymore. This is still valuable information you can reference later on. And so when you're learning, you code one aspect of it, and then you want to reference that code later on so you can learn upon it. Use documentation, write your own notes about certain things that helps you click when you're working on different technologies. So when you come back to it, it helps you faster. So that's all I wanted to talk to you about. That it's normal that you're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to forget about certain things, about certain technologies when you focus on another area. But take notes, have documentation ready, and then just through repetition and practice, you can pick up the information faster the next time you come across it. If you need help building out a project, I'm a freelancer, so feel free to message me about you're working on and see where I can help. I also do coaching as well for any aspiring devs out there. Thank you so much.